Welcome to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz, the very latest in fantasy football leading you up until your drafts in August and September. Today on the show, we're going to take a look at the AFC East. And of course, with the preseason now, George, officially underway, football's back on the mind for a lot of folks. Now, of course, you're still not going to be seeing a lot of the main players, I think, play in a lot of these preseason games, but it's certainly fun to talk about. Great to have football back here on SportsGrid.
Yeah, I think for me, Craig, it became real once I set my home league draft, which I set earlier this week. So to get the drafts out of the way, know when they're going to be, it wasn't that much of a hardship, which usually it is, because God forbid people should make accommodations to make a draft, an online draft nowadays. We don't even do it live anymore. But both my home leagues are set up, so now it feels real, right? You start looking at the your cheat sheets. Okay, who am I going to get? I know I'm picking 11th in my home league. The other league I'm picking second here. So I start like, who am I going to get here? How am I going to fill out my team here? What strategy am I going to use? Now it becomes real.
It does. And on this show, we're going to do the AFC East, but again, leading you up until the beginning of the NFL season. George and I are going to have it all covered for you. So let's dive in on our show today here by beginning on the AFC East, George. And they certainly have arguably the best fantasy football quarterback in the land right now. I mean, these numbers are real, George. It's crazy. 40 total touchdowns this past season for Josh Allen. So, I mean, we could do hours on Josh Allen, how good he is, George, and how great he is for fantasy, and how important it is to not play against this guy on a weekly basis in fantasy, too. But every year, George, we hear he's going to dial it back. He's not going to run. He's not going to throw. He's going to hand the ball. And it never happens, George. Every year, the guy just still puts up these monster numbers. So when I hear Sean McDermott say, hey, we got to take care of Josh Allen, got to make sure he's healthy, got to make sure he's not, I don't believe any of it. The guy is still the number one quarterback or the number two quarterback, just depends on how you feel, in fantasy football. And to me, he is the one player each week, very similar, kind of similar to Lamar Jackson, where I know if I'm playing against Josh Allen, I'm just praying it's not the game of his life.
Exactly. And what you said about McDermott is so true. And I believe that McDermott means well. I think he would like to protect Josh Allen, but the problem is if he's not running the ball, the offense isn't going to click here, right? I mean, you don't have a true number one wide receiver there. You got Khalil Shakir, you got Keon Coleman, who maybe develops into one, but I don't think so. All right, Joshua Palmer, Elijah. We got a whole bunch of twos and threes there. So he doesn't have that number one he can rely on over and over again. You got a tight end that we thought was going to be an ace who's not, and Kincaid, right? So Josh Allen has to be that guy. I know, listen, I played a lot of Superflex leagues. That's what I think should be the norm, by the way. One quarterback leagues are boring. All right. There's more than 12 good quarterbacks. Everybody's going to get a very good one. Two quarterback leagues adds more strategy here. So in the Superflex leagues that I play in, I mentioned my home leagues. They're both Superflex. I have the second pick. I'm taking a quarterback, no choice. It's also a 6-point touchdown pass league in that league. So once again, no choice here. And I'm wondering, am I going to get Jackson? Because my brother has number one. I know he's picking a quarterback as well. So am I getting Lamar Jackson or am I getting Josh Allen? And Craig, either way, I'm not complaining. I expect big years from both of them.
Yeah, and it's going to be the case. And, hopefully one gets to win a Super Bowl eventually because it's kind of overdue, I think, for both players here at this point. All right, in terms of running back, we really saw James Cook, do pretty much exactly what we thought he would do last year. Maybe the one little surprise was that Ray Davis got as much action as he did, George. I think that's probably fair to say. Ty Johnson is absolutely the third running back in their system. Cook, I know, wants a new contract at this point. This debate with running backs, George, it almost never happens. It feels like you got to fight right to the bitter end to get paid. But I would expect another big year for Cook. I mean, honestly, maybe people thought that maybe he wasn't as good last year as they thought he was going to be. But I have no issue with him, certainly being one of my top running backs in fantasy this year.
Yeah, I think he's still an interesting guy, right? Because you already said it. No one really saw that year come from last year. Not that he's not good. He's a good running back, right? And he deserves a new contract, but you already said it. Running backs are generally devalued in today's NFL, although I think that's starting to tick up a little bit. But once again, it's not when you and I were growing up. When, everybody, your first pick in the first round was always going to be a running back because you needed those running backs here. Now, any of the NFL teams don't do that anymore as it's become a passing league here. I like James Cook. Someone else got to pick it up there. Is he a running back one? Yes, I think he is. Is he top 10? He's sort of that borderline for me, Craig, right around there. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, James Cook. I mean, they're all sort of there, it depends on which way you want to go. So I like James Cook. No problem with him being my RB1, but I don't think he's an absolute surefire RB1. Maybe he's your RB2. Maybe he's more that 11 range in a 10-team league, more than the number 8. It's going to come down to gut feel at that point. And what will separate all these guys, by the way, is obviously health. And the other thing is touchdowns. It'd be nice if Josh Allen. It's funny if you if you have James Cook, you hate Josh Allen. He's stealing touchdowns from you. All right, you don't want that. Stop stealing touchdowns, because I know I had Cook last year and I was flipping out at times. Stop stealing touchdowns. But it's going to happen again. But still, I'll take James Cook on my team.
Yeah, you mentioned the pass catchers going into last year. So many predictions that there would be one that would emerge from the rest. It did not happen. And so they're going to run it back here with Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Joshua Palmer. I guess that's a new name. And Elijah Moore, who's a new name as well, and who knows what kind of impact they can have. But, I mean, at this point, you got to be resigned to the fact, George, that what we've seen from the Bills is going to continue to – Shakir is a playable player in fantasy, of course. But you're really, going out on a limb saying that anybody's going to be better than you think they are, just because we've now seen this play out with, Diggs not being there and the way that things have changed in Buffalo. It's going to be a mix of several receivers. And by the way, maybe tight ends too.
The Major League Baseball trade deadline was yesterday, right? What are we going to be talking about the NFL trade deadline? That the Bills need a receiver. That's what we're going to be talking about. All right, that they need that number 1. They got Amari Cooper at the deadline last year. That didn't work out. But I think they're going to be in the market again to pick up a wide receiver, because you saw that graphic of guys there. I mean, come on. Shakir is a nice, in a PPR league, which I assume most people play in now. Okay, he's going to catch a lot of balls. All right, we like that. But the yardage is going to be iffy there at best. You mentioned Elijah Moore. Oh, that's a dartboard throwing prayers. Keon Coleman. Okay, maybe he develops that guy. I think he's going to have some big games, Craig. He'll have some big receptions. A couple of games where he catches 40, 50-yard bombs for touchdowns. I think he's also going to be quiet as well here. So I think that's going to be an issue for Keon Coleman. Joshua Palmer, I like them with the Chargers. We'll see what he can do with the Bills. And Dalton Kincaid, Craig, one of my biggest bets last year that bombed. I think I had him for over 6.5 touchdowns. Yeah, it might have been 7.5, but whatever. I didn't come true. He was not good last year. So I still have hope in him, but not good. I still think they need, if they had that ace wide receiver here, this would be a great team.
Yeah, it would, but it seems they're very content with rolling it back out there, although their schedule this year is going to be tough, just like it always is. When you finish at the top, you end up having to play some of the better teams, and you can see that is the case on the schedule. Tampa Bay, no pushover. Same with Houston, same with Baltimore. Their out-of-division games are going to be tough. They get Kansas City again as well. So, look, I mean, the Bills are just playing for the Super Bowl, George. There's nothing less than that's going to matter for them. So whether they win 9 games, 10, 11, or 12, it's all going to be about getting to the Super Bowl this year.
Agreed. It's Super Bowl or bust, right? It is. Now, they do play all those top teams, but, one thing, Greg, a majority of them are at home. Baltimore, home. Kansas City, home. Tampa Bay, home. All teams that won. Philadelphia, home. That's listen, if you're going to play tough teams, at least you get them at home, right? So that could be a little bonus there, especially if the weather's not so great there. So that Philadelphia game, the rest of the games are more earlier in the season. Weather probably won't play a factor there. I think Buffalo wins the division. I think they might win it kind of easy. I don't know if any other teams really truly ready to compete with them, assuming they stay healthy, which we could say for every team.
All right, we will take a quick time out here on Fantasy Sports Today. Up next, we preview the New York Jets fantasy football season. You're watching FST here on SportsGrid. George and I will be back with more fantasy football discussion right after this.
If I have to think long and hard about whether or not you're a Hall of Famer, you're not a Hall of Famer. I don't need to argue stats. I don't need to argue whether or not you are great. If Ichiro Suzuki is not a Hall of Famer, we don't need to have a baseball Hall of Fame. Like, just pack it up and shut it down, because that guy was as good of a hitter as we've ever seen. And he was unbelievable from the first time he stepped onto the field for the Mariners until the end.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
It's edge rushers. That's where it is right now. And I think Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. I think TJ Watt's right there. I think Micah Parsons is right there. Certainly, those guys are very, very good. Myles Garrett is in a class of his own. He just absolutely is. When the advanced stats about the double team rate, his quarterback pressure rate, all of that, he just stands a notch. I don't want to say a big gap, but he stands a notch ahead of those guys.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
He'll be your reserve. Your extra guy here. Listen, we all need that. I say this all the time about outfielders. Most leagues, I don't know about your league, but we start 5 outfielders. Even if you're in a 10-team league, that's 50 outfielders. Plus you got some guys at utility. Plus you got some guys on reserve. 70 outfielders are gone. All right, so outfielders are extremely valuable here. And Moniak, if he's available, is a nice guy to pick up right now.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
I feel they're all completely justified. The numbers, they're nearly identical. And speaking of identical, I don't know if you saw that one, Craig. That was pretty wild. From winning their first major to winning their 4th major, both Tiger Woods and Scottie Scheffler completed that task in exactly 1,197 days. Both of them, in the exact amount of days, won their 4th major.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
The New York Jets. What a gift they are to SportsGrid and the fantasy sports today. Always something happening with the Jets that make them fun to talk about. Maybe one of these years they'll actually be good. But until then, we stick to fantasy football. And George, they ended up going after a new quarterback again this offseason. I think this is 3 in 3 years, and maybe 4 in 4 years. I can't even keep up. They're heading toward Browns territory here. Justin Fields is the new starting quarterback. He had a scare in training camp that seems to be in the back burner now. I would doubt that we'll see him play in the early part of the season. He did have his moments in Pittsburgh. There were some that said that they really didn't take give him the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. Maybe the Jets should do that this time around. A lot of folks think that he's a good fantasy sleeper this year. He was not a sleeper in Pittsburgh because anytime things got tight, he'd hand that ball off. You think that happens with the Jets this year?
I think you said one key thing there when you need to give Fields the keys to the kingdom. And what I think that means for me, Craig, is that he is not someone who you can just have drop back in 3, 5, 7-step drops 30, 40 times. You can't do that with him. He's not that kind of quarterback. You need to move the pocket, move it left, move it right. You need to get him on his feet. That's where he's dangerous. I'm not saying you have to do it every play, but you need to do it a majority of plays. You need to build the offense around Justin Fields. I don't think teams have done that. Even the Bears, they sort of did it, but didn't really do it. Pittsburgh didn't do it at all. And you can't do that. If you don't build your offense around him, it's not going to work. If you think he's going to fit into your offense, it's not going to work. He's not that kind of quarterback. So I think if the Jets do that, I think it could be interesting. I don't know if I trust the offensive line. I do know. I don't trust it. I don't think it's going to be all that great. I think it'll be better than last year, which it has to be, but I don't think it's going to be all that great. So I don't know if Breece Hall is going to be that guy. They don't know if Breece Hall is going to be that guy. There's a reason we've heard him, we're going to trade him over and over again. They haven't done that. So, but they need that running game to take the pressure off, get the 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4s, not always 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. They're an interesting squad, all right? Because I think they do have some talent here. I just don't know if that talent is enough on offense to get them where they want to go.
Yeah, no, it still remains to be seen, and they do have running back star power there, although Breece Hall did not have the season last year that most people thought he would. He was banged up at the end of the year, and that gave an opportunity to Braylon Allen to play a little bit more. And, based on where they were drafted, Allen outperformed Hall on the season. And then, by the way, they had this kid, Isaiah Davis, George, who looked pretty good, too, when he got a chance to play. So I would suspect that all 3 players, even in the shallow leagues, are going to be drafted. Some people feel like Allen is the better value pick for where he is, but maybe Hall bounces back this season, George. It's, kind of hard for me to understand why he fell so far back last year.
I agree because I'm sort of in on Hall too. Listen, I think last year, I think the offensive line was an issue. That what the blocking wasn't great there. But in the second half of the year, you had A-Rod back. He was doing some damage there in the passing game. So, he weren't seeing too many stacked boxes. So I have some faith in Hall, but he's a running back too. And when I say running back too, probably more the 18 to 24 range now. Or at least 16 to 24. So bottom half of that. And that's what I'm going to take a chance on. You name one of the reasons why. There's some other cooks in the kitchen now that could take away some playing time. So he's not somebody I'm dying to get anymore. At one time he was. I do think the Jets probably should have moved him depending on what they were offered at the draft. Maybe you could have got him for a mid-round pick there. Maybe that would have been better off for them. And then going with Braylon Allen, Davis, maybe somebody else you could have picked up. So like I said, the offense is a work in progress outside of the next guy we're going to talk about. He's a stud. But everyone else here is curiosity as far as the Jets are concerned.
Yeah, and I think the one you're alluding to is the contract extension that was given out in the past week to Garrett Wilson, their great wide receiver, and he doesn't have to fight Devontae Adams for balls anymore. He'll be one of the top wide receivers on the board. Then after you get through Garrett Wilson, it's a very big question here, George. The Jets going into the season with Josh Reynolds and Alan Lazard and Malachi Corley. They drafted Mason Taylor, and he was really good in college. Of course, the son of Jason Taylor, who I'm familiar with very well. But, rookie tight ends, George, in the NFL. That's not a guarantee by any stretch. Who is Fields going to be cashing in these touchdowns with?
Garrett Wilson he's going to see a top cornerback, safety over the top, bracket coverage. If you're a defensive coordinator, so we're taking Garrett out of the game. Or they're going to try their best to take Garrett out of the game. He's not going to beat us, right? Anybody but him. All right, so that's going to be tough for Garrett Wilson. You already said it. Josh Reynolds, Tyler Johnson, Alan Lazard is still there. Amazing. There's nothing there outside of Garrett Wilson, not letting him beat us. And tight end, you said that as well. One of the toughest positions to learn is tight end because you have to be a receiver, so you need to know all about that, and you need to be a blocker, so you need to know all about that. It's not an easy position to learn in year one. So, no, I don't expect great numbers there either. The passing offense it's a work in progress. And I don't trust the offensive line either. And I don't trust Justin Fields. So it's a work in progress, to put it nicely. I also don't think the Jets are going to want to open it up. But they have a good defense, right? So they can hope to play 21-17 games, 24-20 games, keep it close, maybe not make a mistake in the fourth quarter, and we can win it that way. They're not going to play wide open football and play 38-31 games. They can't. So, it's going to be tough for Garrett Wilson. He's a superstar. Like I said, easy top 10 receiver in the league. I don't know if his numbers are going to show that, though, because of the offense. Yeah,
it's just tough all around, but the Jets are, in this perpetual rebuild, it feels like. And even though this may not be a rebuild, it's definitely a transition type season to see what they have in Mason Taylor and Fields at quarterback and some of the others. And if it doesn't work, they just go right back into that draft, George, and probably draft another quarterback again. They have one of the lowest win totals on the board in the NFL, not certainly as low as New Orleans, I don't believe, or maybe even Cleveland, but they're right there with a 5.5 spot. I guess, George, we'll see if they progress over the course of the year. My fear would be, George, is that if things didn't go well with them, maybe as opposed to Cleveland and New Orleans, who have this definitive path of chasing the pick, the Jets could roll under this too if they trade players. To me, I feel like they're not in that we're the worst team category. They're just above, but they could easily get there if they move some of the pieces that they have.
And there are more trades in today's NFL than there ever have been. So, yeah, that's possible. Their schedule is tough. I think New Orleans is the worst team in the NFL. I think they're terrible. Cleveland's probably close. The Jets' schedule is not easy. Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Tampa, Miami, Dallas, Denver. Then you got Cincinnati. And then, I don't know where the wins are coming from. I think they're an under team. Not that I would bet them because it's close, but I think they're an under team. I think it's going to be a tough season for the Jets. Hopefully they're heading in the right direction. They got to find their quarterback.
Coming up next, it's the up-and-coming New England Patriots. Just what kind of step can they take in fantasy? We'll tell you next.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Want to hear a crazy stat, guys, with this Pittsburgh Pirate team? I brought this up yesterday. Out of 106 games, they have been involved in 27 shutouts, 13-4, 14 against. Over 1 out of every 4 Pittsburgh Pirate games ends in a shutout. How crazy is that?
Total is 8 tonight.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sampson, Golf Channel, and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Imagine us telling you a little story 2 years ago that Bill Belichick would not be the head coach of the New England Patriots. He'd be the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And then furthermore, imagine me telling you that whoever replaced Bill Belichick would not even survive past 1 year as head coach of the New England Patriots. George, that is indeed the case. Mike Vrabel, the old Patriot, is back to coach the Patriots again. And boy, does he walk into a pretty good situation here with a good quarterback, updated roster, some new receivers, new running backs as well. But can they make that big of a jump, George? Drake May threw 2,276 yards and 17 touchdowns and got better as the season went on. And some folks think that it's time for a big jump, maybe doubling those passing numbers and doubling those rushing yards and touchdowns. I don't know, George. I mean, a lot of folks are really bullish on New England, and I think they certainly can improve, but it would kind of be one of those huge moves if they went from winning 5 or 6 to 10 that quick, don't you think?
They're not winning 10 games, okay? I love the defense. Love the defense. I think defense could be top 5. The offense is a work in progress, to put it nicely. I mean, we were complaining about Buffalo's wide receivers. New England's wide receiver 1 is what? Stephon Diggs? Diggs hasn't been number 1 in a couple of years now. Plus, he's coming off the injury there. Demario Douglas, all right. Matt Collins, Kyle Williams, that's okay. And you're sort of hinting, I agree with you. I don't know what to make of Drake May. Is he that guy? Is he that guy? I don't know. I think he's progressing, and maybe he'll be that guy, but I don't know if he's that yet. Fantasy-wise, he's a quarterback 2 and a lower-end quarterback 2. All right, I don't have him in my top 17. I think he's 18 to me. So that's where I put him there. I just don't see the upside of the passing game. Do I think his numbers might be better than last year? Sure. All right, because he'll get better. But, I mean, like I said, Diggs, Douglas. Oh, your tight ends, okay, Hunter and Hooper, they're nice. A couple of veteran tight ends there, but that's it. I don't know where the upside is here, Craig. That's my issue. I don't know where the upside fantasy-wise is. NFL-wise, I think they're going to play like a lot of other teams. Let's play like the Jets. Let's play close games, win it in the fourth quarter because our defense will make a play, or we won't make the mistake that the other team will make. I think that's what they're hoping for here. Do I think they can win double-digit games? No. Do I think they can make the playoffs? Yes. Schedule's not bad. So if that defense is as good, then May takes that next step. I do think they can get to maybe 9 wins here. Yeah, I guess maybe they could squeak out 10. But I think they're getting better. But they're not with the upper echelon teams, not yet.
All right, so at running back, this is where I think the upgrade has come here because Ramondre Stevenson He's been given his opportunities, and certainly he's been okay, George, but they did draft a player in Travion Henderson that I do think is going to get a very big look this year. He's one of the second-round running backs basically being taken, and Antonio Gibson is back for another year, maybe more of a kick returner. We'll see if he makes the cut. Ramondre Stevenson back once again as well. But Henderson is the hot name this draft season.
He is, and I think the Patriots should have taken a wide receiver over Henderson, but they did what they did here. I think the problem for me is Stevens is going to play. They're not going to abandon him. He's a decent running back himself. I think Henderson is better, mind you, but Stevens is going to play here. So, like most teams, you're looking at some kind of share. Whether it's 60-40, 70-30, whatever it might be here, and who's going to be the goal line back. That's also going to be of much importance. I don't really care about preseason games. I don't. All right. They're boring to me. Yeah, the Hall of Fame game was last night. Yippee. All I care about are two things: watching injured players, come back from last season, and watching the youngsters, and position battles too, for that matter. And I need to see that Henderson can protect the quarterback. All right. Because if he can't protect the quarterback, then he ain't going to play. All right. So it's going to be that simple here. There's going to be more Stevenson here. You have to be able to protect the quarterback in passing situations to play in today's NFL. So I like Henderson, but I am not as bullish as others on him. He's going to be drafted. Once again, every running back with a pulse gets drafted here. But I'm going to be more cautious because Stevenson's there, and they're not going to abandon him.
That wide receiver you mentioned, Diggs, Kyle Williams, another draft pick. This is Vrabel's pick here. So you would think that this kid would get an opportunity, and that would not go for the other players that are listed here, Henry Douglas and Kayshon Boutte. I think Williams has an opportunity here, but we'll have to see how it works out with Diggs. George, if Diggs turns into Diggs of 2 years ago, then maybe they really have something here. But if not, could be Kyle Williams.
Coming off the injury, I have a tough time seeing Diggs really being all that great. Once again, he'll be drafted. Fantasy-wise, probably more of a wide receiver 3. Someone has to catch the balls there. And they need it to be Diggs, or they need to be Kyle Williams. Someone has to step up and be that guy right from the get-go. I think New England's a good team, but offense on the passing side is limited. As far as fantasy-wise. I just don't think the upside's there for us.
Coming up next, the Miami Dolphins, always with a ton of fantasy upside on offense. We'll break them down for you next on Fantasy Sports Today.
Can you handle the heat? If you don't mind the desert at the hottest, consider visiting Vegas in the summer, where the temperatures are high and the prices are low. Have fun! See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. Let me say that again. Luka Doncic lands the cover of Men's Health magazine. That's noteworthy, because Luka Doncic was seemingly traded away from Dallas because the Mavericks weren't sure if he was ever going to get in shape enough to deliver on his full potential.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I like Payton. I like Jeremy Payton. I think he's a nice player, but really, look at this offense. You're shocked that they win games 2-1. They're an under machine. Solid pitching, even though Hector-Staff's on the injured list still. The bullpen's solid, and they can't hit a lick. They average it seems like they average 3 runs a game, but somehow they run off 10 in a row. They're 10 games under, and then they're 20 games over 500. How does this team do it? That's just in them, though.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
if the Miami Dolphins have a good season, it's probably not going to be because of their offense, George, because we know their offense, as they say, can cook. It's going to be because of their defense, and their defense, George, going into the season has many, many questions, including basically no healthy defensive backs. But I guess the bigger question, George, is do we care in fantasy? Would it be better for the Dolphins to have a down season overall to get more numbers out of the players we're going to discuss? Starting with Tua Tagovailoa, who threw for 2,867 yards and 19 touchdowns. Going into last season, what were the projections for Tua? 25, 35, 45 touchdowns. It was supposed to be this astronomical year for him. And not only was it not, George, when he came back after being hurt, this guy was just throwing it right over the middle for 5 yards every time. They were trying to keep him on the field and keep him healthy. This is one of the big wild cards going into the fantasy season, George, not just Tua, but the Dolphins in general.
Oh, you said it there. When you think about Miami, Tua has to stay healthy, has to be on the field. I know they upgraded their backup quarterback position with this. Well, I guess once again the joke will be, yeah, sure they did. Zach Wilson's your backup there, but theoretically they did. All right, so Tua has to stay healthy, and you're certainly correct when you said they changed the offense immensely when he came back. So they didn't want to take him any hits, right? They didn't want him to take any hits here, so it was everything dump off, fast, quick throws, three-step throws, no hits. You can't win like that. You can't do that. All right, so they're going to have to throw more caution to the wind and have a regular NFL offense. He's going to have to take 5-step, 7-step drops. You want to go max protection? Fine, do that. But he has to be an NFL quarterback. You're going to get hit. Now, we're a fantasy show. And do I think Tua's going to stay healthy for 17 games? No. And that has to come into all my projections and all my rankings there. I would put it as over-under at probably 13.5. And besides a major concussion, listen, we all know his career can be over almost at any moment. And we could say that sort of every NFL player, right? ACL injuries happen, other catastrophic injuries happen. But with Tua, with the head, the concussion, it's a worry. It's definitely a worry, Craig, here. So I hope he stays healthy. I truly do. The rules are designed for quarterbacks not to take hits here. The concussion, when he didn't slide, right? He took that. You can't do that. You have to slide, get down. They don't want you to get hit. Get out of bounds. Get rid of the football. Whatever you have to do here. So he's an interesting player to watch because the offense could be good if he's on the field and playing a normal quarterback role. But it's probably not a risk I'm willing to take.
Now at running back, Devon Achane is one of the top 15 picks in every draft, probably higher in some others. I mean, George, this guy is. I don't know about a league winner, but he's a week winner. When he goes off, it's 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, etc. Wright proved to be a pretty good backup there as well. And then Ollie Gordon is now their third running back. You may say, well, who scores the touchdowns on this team? Wasn't it somebody else? Yes, the last couple of years, George, it was a guy named Raheem Mostert. He's gone. What does that mean for Devon Achane? Is it possible that he gets more goal line carries too? If so, we're not just talking about a top 10 pick in fantasy. We're talking about one of the very best.
You said it. If you believe that he's the goal line guy too, then he's probably top 8. If you don't believe he's the goal line guy, then he probably falls out of the top 10. All right, so it's just what you believe here. The only running backs right now, Craig, that no doubt in my mind I'm taking over Achane are Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley, Genty, probably McCaffrey, although I don't feel great about that, Derrick Henry. Those are the only guys I am definitely, absolutely, no doubt taking over Achane. He's sort of in that category of the running backs I mentioned earlier in the show with Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Kyrie Williams, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, James Cook. All those guys are sort of in the same grouping for me. But if you believe Achane is going to be the number one guy, the Emmitt Smith, the Barry Sanders, he's going to get all the touch or most of the touches and the goal line guy, then he's probably no worse than, like I said, 7 or 8 for me overall for running back.
Yeah, no, he definitely made a big impact on the team last year and no threat of a trade or anything else. Doesn't really seem to be reliant on Tua either. Okay, so now in terms of their pass catchers, that's a completely different story. Tyreek Hill is back after saying that he didn't want to be, George, at the end of last season. He had his fair share of off-the-field stuff again this offseason, very public battle with family issues and such. This is the lowest ADP for Tyreek Hill in a really long time. They also have Jalen Waddle. They brought Darren Waller back out of retirement. They have Nick Westbrook-Ikhine from Tennessee. Malik Washington is there as well. Waddle has been a disappointment, George, without a doubt. I mean, we thought coming out of Alabama, this was a deep threat guy. He still may be. And, George, if you put him on another team, I think he could be. But they just don't throw deep when they're afraid that Tua is going to go down. They're throwing over the middle, and it's usually to Waddle. George, I got to tell you, man, I'm not taking Tyreek Hill. I mean, guys like this drop for a reason. I think he's on the back nine now in terms of his career. And I guess it would be fair to ask yourself, what would happen if in week 5 he got one catch for 15 yards? What would this guy do? Now, I'm not calling him by any means Antonio Brown. I'm not going to say that because I don't think that that's the case. But have we seen Tyreek Hill's best football? And if so, why would anybody reach up to take this guy?
I agree with everything you said. I mean, everything you said here. I'm going to let him be someone else's problem because someone will take him 3rd round. I think he will. That's about where he'll go. Maybe bottom 2nd round because they'll believe, that he can be that guy. And yes, I think there'll be some games, Craig, where, oh, wow, what a play. He, 2 catches and he went for, 172 yards and 2 touchdowns, something silly like that because he can still have those kind of game-breaking plays, no doubt in my mind. That being said, I'm not taking him. I may feel burned from last year. I think I had him as my number 1 wide receiver in my home league. That didn't work out very well. It really cost me the league there. So, yeah, I don't. But even if you believe in Hill or you don't believe he's done, you're still going to worry about Tua. And how many games is he going to play? That also drags him down because I don't think Tua is going to play 17 games or really all that close to it. He's going to miss 3-5 games here. So I'm going to have a tough time with that. So there's all sorts of reasons not to bank on Tyreek Hill. You bring up Antonio Brown. Now, I don't think he's Brown either, but I do think he has some Brown in him. And by the way, if you told me, week 9 he just walked away, wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be. Wouldn't be shocked. That comment he made last year, okay, fine. People get frustrated. But I thought it was pretty much over and done. And then 2 weeks ago, we hear Tua go, well, no, he's still got some making up to do. And I'm like, wow. You never hear teammates say that about someone, especially someone as good as Tyreek Hill was or used to be. You just don't hear that. And then he came out and said it. It's like, oh boy. So that's would scare me away as well. That things aren't perfect there at all. I also believe that things don't go well for the Dolphins here. I guess who the first coach to be fired it's going to be.
Yeah,
and that'd be McDaniel. I think it's a powder cake. Crazy. It's lit, and we'll see what's going to happen here.
Yeah, they've had some major issues in the defensive backfield. There are some prognostications say that they have the worst defensive backfield, not just this year, but in many years. So if that's the case, buckle up. But it could mean good things for their offense because that means they could be throwing a lot. But I will say this in defense of the Dolphins, George. Their schedule is not impossible, number 1. Number 2, I am not as bullish on New England as some others. So I am not going to predict like this horrendous doom and gloom. I just think that the Dolphins are who they are, which is Middletown. The Dolphins are always winning 7, 8, or 9 games, somewhere along those lines. It wouldn't shock me to see them 9-8. I just don't think they're going anywhere. But, I mean, listen, you mentioned powder keg. Yes, it's all certainly possible. I don't think they're going 5-12 this year. I don't. I think they're going to be better than that. I just don't think that they're a great team. Doesn't it feel like, George, they've been in the middle forever? Like, this is where it just seems like they always are.
That's fair. It is fair. All right. Let's get you Indianapolis, week 1, New England. You're at Buffalo, Jets, Carolina, Chargers, Cleveland. For the first half, is it one hard, one good, one hard, easy, hard, easy. So once again, that could give you right to a 500 starter somewhere around there. The middle gets a little rough. Atlanta, Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington. Not an easy stretch. That Washington game is one of the European games. Don't know where offhand. Gets a little easy. New Orleans, New York, Jets, Pittsburgh. Then you close out tough against Cincinnati, Tampa, New England here. I think they win, what do you say, 7, 8, 9? That sounds about right. In that range there, I think is what they'll do. Could they squeak into a wild card? Sure, but I don't think so.
Yeah. The point I'm trying to make is I'm looking at a board where I see Sam made the board for us. New England plus 550, Miami plus 750. I'd swap those. We'll be right back.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Christopher Sanchez of the Philadelphia Phillies is one of 3 Major League Baseball pitchers to have a 7-start span featuring an undefeated record, a sub-1.5 ERA, 50 or more innings pitched, 50 or more strikeouts, fewer than 5 walks, no more than 1 home run allowed.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5 points live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sands from Golf Channel and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Before we get out of here, we got some questions about wide receivers in the National Football League. And we'll talk about Tyreek Hill of the Dolphins. We'll also talk about Stephon Diggs, who used to play in the AFC East for the Buffalo Bills. Now he's back in the AFC East with the New England Patriots. We call it buy or sell. All right, let's start off with the Patriots, George. Does this seem to be a strange fit? It really would have seemed strange if it was Bill Belichick. But I guess Belichick has this reputation for rebuilding character, wide receivers, took on Antonio Brown once upon a time, took on, not that Randy Moss had any bad attitude or anything, but took Randy Moss at a time. Nobody wanted him as well. Mike Vrabel's doing the same thing in New England. Boy, strange offseason for Stephon Diggs and everything that went on with him, and strange tenure in Houston, albeit quick. Buy or sell? Stephon Diggs will have over 1,000 yards in New England this season. George, you going to buy or sell this?
First off, boy, this could have been my little complain minute later, but 1,000 is no longer a big thing anymore. All right, it may have been the 70s when it was 14 games, and then it went to 16 games. Fine. Now at 17 games, it's only 59 yards a game. It's not a big thing. Talk to me at 1,200. That's going to be the new benchmark. But I know we like our round numbers of the 1,000, 500, and all that stuff. So I don't think, like I said, I don't think the 1,000 is all a big deal. Anyway, that being said, no, I don't think he's going to get this. I like Drake May. Not totally sold. He's the a true franchise quarterback, but I think he's heading that direction. Fine. Stephon Diggs coming back from injury, first year with the team, already had some interesting off-field stuff. He's the only receiver everybody really cares about there. Douglas will see what he can do there, but he's going to see a lot of defensive coverage here. They're going to be a run-first team. They're going to be a play defense first team here. So, no, I'm selling this. I don't think that everything's going to go his way here, even at 59 yards. And I did the math here. It's 58.82 for those who want to know. I just don't see it's going to be. I know. You were promised there'd be no math, but there was. I just don't know. I'm selling this. I just don't see it.
I'm going to buy because it's such a low number, but by no means do I think he's going to dial it back to 2022 or anything like that. What happens with these wide receivers is we still want to believe. We want to believe at the end of Jerry Rice and Randy Moss and A.J. Green and Larry Fitzgerald. We want to believe that one more, and Hopkins, that one more year they can still do it. And I think this is probably the last year for Stephon Diggs doing it. But what's that going to look like? it's going to look like just over 1,000 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then next year, it's going to look like 600 yards and 2 touchdowns. And that's going to be it for Stephon Diggs. So I'm going to buy, George, because the way that you described it, the number seems so low in a 17-game season. But not somebody that I think that fits a profile as a wide receiver 2 in fantasy at all. So those of you who are drafting him as such, find him as a 3 or a 4. All right, let's go to the Miami Dolphins. We kind of dunked on Tyreek Hill here a little bit. The Dolphins, we don't know what kind of season they're going to have. Once upon a time, Tyreek Hill, number 1 overall pick in fantasy, maybe number 2. For the past almost decade, he's been a top 3, top 5 pick in every fantasy football draft. Not this year. After he asked out of Miami, he's back for another season. George, Tyreek Hill will finish this season in a new uniform, meaning not with the Dolphins. And also, we're going to qualify this. If he changes his number, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking new team. He'll finish the season in a new uniform.
That's funny. A little lawyerism there. I mean, do I think things could blow up there? Yeah, I do. I certainly do. I think you said it perfectly. Come week 5, he catches one ball for 15 yards. What happens? Especially if it's in a loss, although I'm not so sure he'd care if it was in a win either. So I think there could be some interesting times there. I think there's some friction. I don't think there's any doubt there's friction there between Tua and Hill. But he finishes in a new uniform here. His contract's going to make it tough. The team's going to want to take on that personality and all the problems he can give. I'm going to say no. So I guess I'm going to sell this. That he'll stay with Miami here. Maybe things work out. He has a good year. I think the question is legit. And I think there will be talk about him at the deadline, maybe a lot of talk about him. I just think it's more the contract mechanism is going to be very tough to move here. The NFL's weird when you try and trade star players and how the money works going to the other team. How many teams are going to be able to eat that contract under the cap? I think that's going to be a big issue. So I'm going to sell this.
You're not going to like what I have to say here. You're not going to like this, George. You're going to hate it. Absolutely hate it.
He's going to go with Dallas.
I'm going to buy that he's going to be playing on another team, and I'm going to play it out for you. I think the Dolphins are going to be kind of who we think: 4-4, 4-5, 5-4, somewhere along those lines. And Tyreek Hill's going to be pretty good, maybe better than what we think, but still not worth taking where he's taken. And then George is going back to Kansas City. He's going back to Kansas City halfway through the year. He's going to be a Chief again with Patrick Mahomes. I know you don't like to hear that. That's what I see. I don't think any.
His cap is $51 million. He can't go to the Chiefs.
You can't?
I know teams can figure it out, but no. I wouldn't hate that, but it'd be interesting. Why would I hate that? It'd be fun.
First of all, George, you and I both know that salary cap means nothing in the NFL. It's a fake number. Okay? Stop. Stopped. Doesn't exist. Guys get traded. Oh, they can't. They're in cap hell. And then, everything's okay. Let's go sign this guy. Please stop with that. Don't bring that up again in the show. Justin Fields of the Jets. 2 years ago, you would have thought with the Bears, hey, he's got a chance to be a top 10 quarterback. After watching him last year with Pittsburgh, is this possible? Fields will be a top 10 fantasy quarterback this season.
No. I mean, come on. The Jets aren't going to be that kind of offense here. Lamar Jackson, Allen, Daniels, Hurts, Burrow, Mahomes, Mayfield, Nix, Murray. All right. You got Purdy, Dak, Caleb. I mean, I guess there's a chance he could be, but we're not even going to last the whole season with the team. He's already got a dislocated toe. No, he's not going to be. They're not going to throw the ball enough. He'd have to run a ton here. Run in touchdowns. I guess there's a chance there will be some quarterbacks that get hurt. So if he avoids those guys, maybe. But I'll sell this too. I'm doing a lot of selling today.
Yeah, sell. I go the other way just to have some fun sometimes on this show. I cannot do it. I'm going sell. Bills will clinch the division by December 1st. We have no context on this. How far out, Sam, is that from playoffs? Week 11. Thanks.
Oh, sell. No. Week 11. No way. Sell. They're not going to do it by December 1st. They will win it, but not by December 1st. December 15th.
Sell.
We all know a night out at the club in Vegas can get a little bit pricey, but I've got a tip that can save you a cover fee at some of the hottest nightclubs. All you have to do is sign up online for free with a credible guest list service. Then, just show up before 10:30 and check right in. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
They lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Over a full season, is he going to be Mike Piazza? No, of course not. But I think he's going to be a guy who can help your team here. My only problem really with Alvarez is this, as Craig and I have talked about so many times, catcher is deep. If you're in a two-catcher league, by the way, please, for the love of God, I never understood why anybody plays in two-catcher leagues. But in a one-catcher league, who's the catcher you're dropping?
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Cleveland Browns thought to have to make some key decisions in training camp until Kenny Pickett got hurt. But the Browns are hurting everybody's feelings showing these stats, George, of how quarterbacks are doing against their own team. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, you thought that we were deep diving into stats in baseball and football and basketball. How about stats from camp? How about stats from Dylan Gabriel throwing out to his own guys, over his own guys? This is so weird, man. I know Shedeur Sanders has played a little bit more. Obviously, Joe Flacco is going to start the season. But, yeah, these are one of the more ridiculous things I've seen as camps have opened.
Well, it was ridiculous when they kept four quarterbacks, right? When you can't, and I guess theoretically five with Watson, but he's not going to play. Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, Sanders. I mean, they set themselves up for this. They just set themselves up for this. You know, that was going to be this kind of talk here. I said it before. I think for Cleveland, this whole season is not about winning. If you can, great, but they're not going to. It's all about, do you have your quarterback of the future on your roster? If not, then you got to get one next year, right? Because you're going to have 2 first-round picks next year. You're going to have Jacksonville's and the Travis Hunter deal, and you're going to have your own. And let's face it, they both could be very good picks here. Yours should be top 5. Jacksonville, we'll see what Trevor Lawrence can do. But that's all the season matters, Craig. Is Sanders, in my mind, it's Sanders or bust. I don't think it's Gabriel. I certainly don't think it's Flacco or Pickett. Is Sanders your quarterback of the future? If you think he is, hey, great. And then you can go bananas next year filling out players around him with those picks. If not, then you got the quarterback next year, and you better start figuring out how you're going to get that one if you don't have the top overall pick and which guy you want here. That's all that matters here. Everything else is just fluff.
Yeah, I would agree. And, I just hope this isn't the start of a trend. Usually teams copy each other, and I'm just hoping that we don't have to deal with this in the future if it comes down to it. All right, before we get out of here, it's time for us to have some commentary, as we always do, to end the show. 60 seconds from George, 60 seconds from me. We call it the Sports Grid 60.
All right, I think I probably say this every year at this time on our shows. It's fantasy draft season, right? You got your football drafts. I know I've already had my Dynasty League draft a couple of months ago. I've done quite a few best ball leagues, and now it's time for your redraft leagues. I mentioned my home leagues that I care about the most. Draft is one's the 24th, the other one's the 27th, and I have a couple of industry leagues. My advice to everybody out there is know the rules. I mean, it's even an industry league. It's amazing. You get the chats. Oh, is this a PPR league? Is this we having this? Is this super flex league? We start, it's like, oh my, how do you not know the rules in a league, especially if it's a money league? And I'm not talking $10, I'm talking $100 entry fee, $200 entry fee, whatever it might be. And you see it all the time. What are the rules? How many wide receivers can we draft? It's like, I'll never understand it. How do you not know the rules? Like I said, if it's a non-money league, fine, who cares? But if it's a money league, it just always baffles me. Know your rules. I like to know what I'm picking in the first round, and most of the times you'll know, just because that's what I like to do. I like to map out. If I have the 7th pick, I'm going to write down my top 7 guys. So I know in the first round who I'm going to get. After that, depends how the draft is working here. But for the first round, you should be able to map that out here. But like I said, know your rules. And listen, if your commissioner's starting to set up a league, give him a break. Give her a break. Don't kill every day because I got to rearrange my sock drawer. I got to fold my laundry. I can't do a draft that night. Remember, they got 9, 10, 11 other people to make a draft with. Make it easy. Make some concessions. Enjoy your draft. For me, it's one of the funnest days of the year.
I used to appreciate the NFL preseason. I never thought it was good, and I thought it was a scam that they charged regular season amounts for preseason games. But doing fantasy football prep always involved, for me, finding those random Raiders-Chargers games at 11 o'clock at night on the East Coast where I would catch my 15 minutes of NFL preseason action where some players would play. Now the preseason is an absolute joke. It's not 4 games, it's 3, and nobody plays in any of the 3 games. I don't know why they even do it anymore. Now, again, I was for the preseason and for players playing sometimes, a quarter or 2 just to see them back on the field. But I think that we're about, folks, to see, the preseason completely go away. I think these practices and scrimmages at the training camps of the places are in the future. And I think another regular season game is probably coming to the NFL to just eliminate the preseason. But shame to me, because I did used to like that for fantasy football prep, to watch games random times during the day. It's always playing on a Sunday at 1, like strange preseason games. Unfortunately, those days are gone. George, our show is over. I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks again.
Always my pleasure, Craig. And we'll be back next week with more fantasy football, fantasy baseball, hopefully, too.
Indeed. Thanks again to our producer, Sam. For George, I'm Craig. Good luck if you're drafting in fantasy football this weekend. If you're not, we'll talk to you about that again next week.
Lay over and die at the hands of the Minnesota Lynx, who beat them 109-78. The defense is a mess. The offense is a mess. The Vegas Aces, who I was so sold on, JY, bouncing back and being one of the absolute best teams in this league, are average at best.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
You want to hear a crazy stat, guys, with this Pittsburgh Pirate team? I brought this up yesterday. Out of 106 games, they have been involved in 27 shutouts, 13-4, 14 against. Over 1 out of every 4 Pittsburgh Pirate games ends in a shutout. How crazy is that?
Total is 8 tonight. In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
One big problem for NBC, too many on-air cooks for the coverage, particularly on the weekends. Having 4 on-air teams separate time, divide the time, was really outrageous. You had Mike Tirico and his partner. You had Dan Hicks, NBC Sports' lead golf commentator, and his partner. You had Steve Sampson, Golf Channel, and his partner. And you had Terry Gann, who, by the way, if you don't know, is going to become an NBA play-by-play voice.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Just more and more smoke, leading to the fire that is Keegan Bradley being on this team as a player.
Yeah, I think we're all expecting it at this point. And, Keegan, he knows he can't play poorly in the playoffs. Like, he knows he needs to keep momentum going. And if he continues to play well, he's going to be on this team.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.